Most economists agree on one principle: education correlates with income. What they cannot explain is why Finnish graduates earn 47% more than their equally educated counterparts in other developed nations within 10 years of graduation. This disparity becomes more puzzling when we examine Finland's educational approach. Finnish students spend fewer hours in classrooms, complete minimal homework assignments, and face no standardized testing until age 16. By conventional metrics, they should underperform academically and economically. Instead, they consistently outrank students from test-intensive systems in both learning outcomes and subsequent financial success. The explanation lies in a fundamental misunderstanding of how human brains acquire wealth-generating capabilities. Traditional education systems optimize for information retention and test performance, cognitive functions that correlate weakly with entrepreneurial success, innovative thinking, and adaptive problem-solving. Finnish education targets entirely different neural pathways. Neuroscientists at the University of Turku have identified specific brain regions that activate when individuals engage in collaborative learning environments. These same regions, the medial prefrontal cortex and posterior superior temporal sulcus, show heightened activity in successful entrepreneurs and high-earning professionals. Finland's education system appears to strengthen these neural networks systematically. The economic implications are staggering. Finland transformed from Europe's poorest nation in 1960 to the world's second most prosperous country by 2020. This 60-year metamorphosis coincided precisely with comprehensive educational reforms that prioritize student well-being over academic competition. 3 psychological mechanisms explain this transformation. First, Finnish schools eliminate performance anxiety during critical developmental periods, allowing students natural curiosity and creativity to flourish. Second, collaborative learning structures build social intelligence and communication skills that prove essential for leadership roles and business success. Third, project-based curricula develop executive function capabilities, the cognitive skills that enable individuals to plan, prioritize, and execute complex tasks throughout their careers. These educational principles produce measurable neurological changes. Brain imaging studies reveal that Finnish students develop thicker cortical regions associated with abstract reasoning and emotional regulation compared to their peers in traditional educational systems. These structural differences persist into adulthood, correlating with higher lifetime earnings and greater career satisfaction. The Finnish approach challenges fundamental assumptions about human capital development. While other nations invest billions in educational technology, standardized assessment systems, and competitive academic programs, Finland achieves superior outcomes through systematic stress reduction, teacher empowerment, and collaborative learning environments. This paradox extends beyond individual student outcomes. Finnish society demonstrates that educational equity produces economic efficiency. When all citizens receive high-quality education, regardless of socioeconomic background, the entire labor force becomes more productive, innovative, and adaptable. This creates conditions for sustained economic growth that benefits every societal segment. The following analysis examines how Finland's seemingly counterintuitive educational philosophy generates wealth at both individual and national levels, providing a blueprint for economic development that other nations can adapt and implement. Most people believe wealth comes from natural resources, geographic advantages, or historical luck. Finland proves this assumption fundamentally wrong. In 1960, Finland ranked among Europe's poorest nations. The average Finnish citizen earned less than half of what Americans made. 70% of the population lived in rural areas, working primarily in agriculture and forestry. The country had recently lost significant territory to the Soviet Union, faced massive war reparations, and struggled with limited industrial capacity. Today's Finland presents a dramatically different reality. The nation consistently ranks in the top 5 globally for per capita income, quality of life, and economic competitiveness. Finnish citizens enjoy one of the world's highest standards of living, with median household wealth exceeding most developed nations. This transformation occurred within a single generation. The catalyst for this remarkable change was not oil discovery, technological breakthroughs, or favorable trade agreements. The driving force was a comprehensive restructuring of how Finland educates its citizens. Traditional economic models struggle to explain Finland's success. The country lacks significant mineral resources, faces harsh climate conditions, and maintains relatively high tax rates. Standard economic indicators suggested Finland should have remained a middle-income economy focused on raw material exports. Instead, Finland developed into a knowledge-based economy that consistently outperforms resource-rich nations. Finnish companies like Nokia revolutionized global telecommunications. The gaming industry, led by companies such as Supercell and Rovio, generates billions in revenue. These successes stem directly from the country's educational approach. The connection between education and wealth creation extends beyond individual success stories. Research conducted by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development demonstrates that countries with superior educational systems generate higher per capita gross domestic product growth rates. Finland's educational reforms preceded its economic transformation by approximately 2 decades, establishing a clear causal relationship. Finland's program for international student assessment scores consistently rank among the world's highest, yet Finnish students spend fewer hours in classrooms than their international counterparts. This efficiency paradox challenges conventional wisdom about educational intensity and outcomes. The Finnish model produces graduates with distinct characteristics that translate directly into economic value. These individuals demonstrate superior problem-solving abilities, adaptability to changing market conditions, and innovative thinking patterns. Labor market data indicates Finnish workers command higher salaries across all skill levels compared to workers with traditional educational backgrounds. Finnish educational philosophy emphasizes developing human potential rather than sorting students into predetermined categories. This approach creates a workforce where exceptional capability extends across the entire population rather than concentrating among a small elite group. The economic implications become clear when examining Finland's productivity metrics. Finnish workers generate more economic output per hour worked than workers in most developed nations. This productivity advantage stems from educational practices that develop critical thinking, collaborative skills, and continuous learning capabilities. Finland's success contradicts the zero-sum mentality that dominates educational policy in many countries. Rather than creating winners and losers, the Finnish system elevates overall population capability. This comprehensive approach generates broader economic benefits than systems focused on identifying and developing only the highest-performing students. The transformation was not accidental. Finnish policymakers deliberately connected educational reforms to long-term economic strategy. They recognized that sustainable wealth creation in the modern economy requires a fundamentally different approach to human capital development. Finland's educational investment yields measurable returns across multiple economic indicators. The country maintains one of the world's lowest income inequality ratios while achieving high absolute income levels. This combination indicates the educational system creates widespread prosperity rather than concentrating wealth among a narrow segment of society. International corporations increasingly locate high-value operations in Finland, specifically because of workforce quality. These companies report that Finnish employees require less training, adapt more quickly to new technologies, and demonstrate superior innovation capabilities. The economic multiplier effects extend throughout the entire economy. The Finnish model challenges the assumption that educational excellence requires extensive resources. Finland spends less per student than many developed nations, yet achieves superior outcomes. This efficiency suggests the key factor is not funding quantity, but rather pedagogical approach and system design. Finland's success provides concrete evidence that education functions as the primary wealth creation mechanism in modern economies. Countries that optimize their educational systems generate sustained competitive advantages that translate directly into higher living standards for their citizens. The Finnish transformation offers a replicable model for any nation seeking to enhance its economic prospects through human capital development. The specific mechanisms and implementation strategies that created Finland's success form the foundation for understanding how education systems can be engineered to generate sustainable wealth creation. Finland's education revolution began with a single, radical decision that would reshape an entire nation's destiny. In 1972, the Finnish government made a choice that economists now recognize as one of the most profitable policy decisions in modern history. They eliminated educational inequality at its source. The human brain processes fairness through the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that responds to physical pain. When children perceive educational systems as unfair, their stress hormones surge, impairing memory formation and cognitive development. Finland understood this neurological reality decades before the research confirmed it. Before 1972, Finland operated a two-track system that separated children at age 11 into academic and vocational pathways. This premature sorting mechanism created what psychologists term stereotype threat, when students internalize low expectations and perform accordingly. The system was hemorrhaging human capital at an unprecedented rate. Finnish policymakers recognized that this educational apartheid was economically catastrophic. Nations that stratify their educational systems early lose approximately 20 to 30% of their cognitive talent pool, according to longitudinal studies conducted by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Finland calculated they could not afford this intellectual waste. The comprehensive school reform abolished tracking entirely. Every Finnish child would now receive identical educational opportunities until age 16, regardless of socio-economic background, geographic location, or perceived academic ability. This decision activated what behavioral economists call equality of opportunity, a precondition for optimal human capital development. The psychological impact of this change was immediate and measurable. When children learn in mixed ability environments, several cognitive benefits emerge simultaneously. High-achieving students develop advanced communication skills by explaining concepts to peers, while struggling students benefit from peer modeling and collaborative learning structures. Research in social psychology demonstrates that heterogeneous groupings enhance creative problem-solving capabilities. When students with diverse thinking patterns collaborate, they generate solutions that homogeneous groups cannot conceive. Finland was essentially rewiring its population for innovation. The elimination of smart and regular school categories removed the psychological burden of educational labels. Labels create what Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck identifies as fixed mindset, the belief that intelligence is static and unchangeable. Finland's reform fostered growth mindset, where students understand that abilities develop through effort and strategy. Finland implemented radical resource redistribution that would make economists applaud. They calculated the exact per-student investment required for optimal learning outcomes and guaranteed this funding to every school, regardless of local property values or demographic composition. This economic principle is fundamental. When you eliminate resource disparities, you eliminate performance disparities. Areas with concentrated poverty typically receive substandard educational resources, creating intergenerational poverty cycles. Finland broke this cycle by ensuring that rural schools in Lapland received identical resources to urban schools in Helsinki. The quality standardization process was methodical. Finland established uniform teacher qualification requirements, standardized curriculum frameworks, and consistent learning environments across all institutions. This eliminated the postcode lottery that determines educational quality in most countries. The comprehensive school model operates on a simple but powerful premise. Extended exposure to high-quality education maximizes human potential. By keeping all students together until age 16, Finland ensures that late bloomers, students whose talents emerge later in adolescence, receive identical opportunities for development. Neuroscientific research confirms that adolescent brains continue developing executive function capabilities well into their 20s. Early tracking systems make permanent decisions based on temporary developmental variations. Finland's extended comprehensive system allows for natural cognitive maturation without premature educational limitations. This structural design creates what economists term network effects. When high-achieving and struggling students learn together, both groups benefit from expanded social and academic networks that persist throughout their careers. These relationships become valuable economic assets in Finland's knowledge economy. The economic logic underlying Finland's reforms reflects sophisticated understanding of human capital theory. When educational systems maximize the potential of every citizen, rather than optimizing outcomes for a privileged minority, they generate superior aggregate economic returns. Countries with high educational inequality typically exhibit corresponding economic inequality. Finland's Gini coefficient, a measure of income inequality, ranks among the world's lowest, directly correlating with their educational equality measures. This demonstrates the economic returns of inclusive educational investment. The comprehensive system generates skilled workers across the entire population distribution. Traditional elite-focused systems produce small numbers of highly educated individuals alongside large populations with minimal skills. Finland's approach creates broad-based competency that supports diverse economic sectors. When every citizen receives high-quality education, the entire labor market elevates. Finland's workforce demonstrates consistently high productivity levels across sectors, from manufacturing to technology services. This broad-based competency attracts international investment and supports domestic innovation. The psychological concept of collective efficacy explains why this matters economically. When populations believe in their collective capability to solve problems and create value, they generate superior economic outcomes. Finland's educational equality fosters this shared confidence in national capability. Modern economies require cognitive flexibility, collaborative skills, and complex problem-solving abilities across all employment sectors. Finland's comprehensive system ensures that these capabilities develop throughout the population, not just within elite segments. The foundation Finland established in the 1970s created the structural conditions for economic prosperity. By guaranteeing educational equality, they unleashed human potential that had been systematically constrained by artificial barriers. This decision would prove to be the most profitable investment in Finland's economic history. Finland's teaching profession underwent a radical transformation that fundamentally altered the nation's economic trajectory. While most countries struggle with teacher shortages and declining educational quality, Finland created a system where teaching became as prestigious and competitive as medicine or law. The cornerstone of this revolution lies in Finland's mandatory master's degree requirement for all teachers. This isn't merely an administrative checkbox. It represents a philosophical shift that positions teaching as an advanced intellectual discipline, requiring deep expertise. Teachers must complete rigorous academic programs that combine subject mastery with pedagogical science, educational psychology, and research methodology. The selection process reveals the true magnitude of this transformation. Finnish teaching programs accept only 8 to 10% of applicants, acceptance rates comparable to the most elite medical schools. This selectivity ensures that only candidates with exceptional academic ability, emotional intelligence, and genuine commitment to education enter the profession. The psychological impact of this exclusivity cannot be understated. When society designates teaching as a privilege reserved for the intellectual elite, it fundamentally alters how teachers perceive themselves and how others perceive them. Finnish teachers carry the social status traditionally reserved for doctors and lawyers because the qualification barriers mirror those professions. This elevated status creates a powerful feedback loop. High-achieving students aspire to teaching careers because society values and respects the profession. Universities attract top-tier candidates to their education programs. Parents trust teachers implicitly because they understand the rigorous preparation behind their expertise. Students respect their teachers because cultural messaging consistently reinforces teaching as an elite profession. The economic logic driving this investment becomes clear when examining educational outcomes. Finnish students consistently rank among the world's highest performers in international assessments, not through intensive drilling or competition, but through exposure to masterfully trained educators who understand both their subjects and the science of learning. These highly qualified teachers develop specific competencies that directly translate to student economic success. They master differentiated instruction techniques that ensure every student reaches their potential, regardless of background. They understand cognitive psychology principles that optimize information retention and skill development. They possess assessment expertise that identifies learning gaps before they become permanent disadvantages. Finnish teachers also receive extensive training in recognizing and nurturing individual talents. This personalized approach ensures that students develop their unique strengths rather than conforming to standardized expectations. The economic implications are profound. When education systems maximize each individual's potential, they create more diverse skill sets that drive innovation and entrepreneurship. The autonomy granted to these highly trained professionals amplifies their effectiveness. Finnish teachers design their own curricula, select their teaching methods, and assess student progress without external standardized testing mandates. This professional freedom attracts the most creative and intellectually curious individuals to the profession, while enabling evidence-based teaching practices tailored to specific student needs. The financial investment in teacher preparation pays measurable returns through student outcomes that translate directly to economic advantages. Finnish students graduate with superior critical thinking abilities, collaborative skills, and creative problem-solving capabilities, precisely the competencies that command premium salaries in modern knowledge economies. Research demonstrates that teacher quality represents the single most important in-school factor affecting student achievement. Finland recognized this principle and built their entire educational system around maximizing teacher effectiveness. The result is a workforce educated by professionals whose training rivals that of other elite professions. The ripple effects extend beyond individual classrooms. When teachers possess deep subject knowledge combined with sophisticated pedagogical training, they create learning environments that foster intellectual curiosity and academic excellence. Students internalize high expectations because they recognize their teachers' exceptional qualifications and expertise. This teacher quality revolution also addresses educational equity directly. When every school employs highly trained teachers, geographic and socio-economic disparities in educational quality diminish dramatically. Wealthy families cannot purchase superior education by moving to affluent districts because teacher quality remains consistently high across all schools. The long-term economic benefits compound as these expertly educated students enter the workforce. Employers consistently report that Finnish graduates demonstrate superior workplace readiness, adaptability, and leadership potential compared to graduates from systems with less rigorous teacher preparation standards. Finland's teacher revolution proves that treating education as a true profession, with appropriate preparation, autonomy, and social status, creates measurable economic returns through improved human capital development. The country transformed teaching from a fallback career option into a destination for the nation's brightest minds, fundamentally altering both educational outcomes and economic prosperity. What if I told you that the students scoring highest on international assessments spend significantly fewer hours memorizing facts than their peers worldwide? What if the secret to creating economically valuable human capital lies not in drilling information into young minds, but in teaching them to manipulate that information creatively? Finland's educational approach represents a radical departure from conventional wisdom. While most education systems worldwide operate under the industrial model, standardized inputs producing standardized outputs, Finnish schools function as innovation laboratories, where students develop the cognitive flexibility that modern economies desperately need. Neuroscience research reveals a critical distinction between declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. Declarative knowledge consists of facts and information that can be stated explicitly. Procedural knowledge encompasses the ability to perform tasks and solve problems. The human brain processes these two types of learning through entirely different neural pathways. Finnish educators understood this distinction decades before neuroscience validated their approach. They recognized that procedural knowledge, the ability to apply, analyze, synthesize, and create, generates far more economic value than declarative knowledge alone. This understanding fundamentally reshaped how Finnish students spend their time in school. Consider the psychological concept of transfer learning. When students memorize isolated facts, their knowledge remains compartmentalized, unable to bridge between different contexts. However, when students engage in practical problem-solving, they develop mental frameworks that transfer across multiple domains. This transferability represents the difference between workers who can only perform predetermined tasks and workers who can adapt to novel challenges. Finnish classrooms operate on a principle that would seem chaotic to observers from test-focused education systems. Students regularly engage in months-long projects that require them to integrate knowledge from multiple subjects to solve real-world problems. These projects aren't supplementary activities. They constitute the core curriculum. Take the example of a typical Finnish project, where students must design a sustainable energy solution for their local community. This single project requires mathematical calculations for energy efficiency, scientific understanding of renewable resources, historical analysis of energy policy, geographical assessment of local conditions, and communication skills to present their findings to actual city planners. The psychological impact of this approach activates what researchers call intrinsic motivation. When students see direct connections between their learning and real-world applications, their engagement increases exponentially. More importantly, they develop what psychologists term self-efficacy. the belief that their actions can produce meaningful outcomes. Finnish schools deliberately cultivate divergent thinking, the cognitive ability to generate multiple solutions to a single problem. Traditional education systems typically reward convergent thinking, finding the single correct answer. This fundamental difference has profound economic implications. Research in cognitive psychology demonstrates that individuals skilled in divergent thinking become the entrepreneurs, inventors, and innovative leaders who drive economic growth. They possess the mental flexibility to identify opportunities that others miss, and the creative confidence to pursue unconventional solutions. Finnish students regularly participate in activities specifically designed to strengthen divergent thinking. They might be asked to brainstorm 50 different uses for a common object, or to solve mathematical problems using methods they've never been taught. These exercises train their brains to approach challenges from multiple angles simultaneously. The economic value of this cognitive training becomes apparent when we examine Finland's innovation metrics. Despite representing only 0.07% of the world's population, Finland consistently ranks among the top 5 nations in global innovation indices. This disproportionate innovative output directly correlates with their educational emphasis on creative problem-solving. Perhaps the most economically valuable skill Finnish schools develop is critical thinking, the ability to analyze information objectively and make reasoned judgments. In an era of information abundance, the capacity to distinguish reliable data from misinformation represents a crucial competitive advantage. Finnish students learn to question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and construct logical arguments from their earliest school years. They analyze current events, debate complex issues, and learn to change their positions when presented with compelling contradictory evidence. This skill set proves invaluable in the modern workplace. Employees who can critically evaluate information, identify flaws in reasoning, and propose evidence-based solutions command higher salaries across virtually every industry. They become the decision-makers who guide organizations through complex challenges. Finnish education places enormous emphasis on collaborative problem-solving, recognizing that most valuable work in the modern economy requires teamwork. Students regularly work in groups to tackle challenges that no individual could solve alone. This approach develops what researchers call collective intelligence, the enhanced capacity that results from collaboration and communication among groups of individuals. Studies demonstrate that teams with high collective intelligence consistently outperform teams composed of individually brilliant members who lack collaborative skills. Finnish students learn to navigate group dynamics, resolve conflicts constructively, and leverage diverse perspectives to reach superior solutions. These social and emotional competencies prove just as economically valuable as technical skills. Research indicates that workers with strong collaborative abilities earn 15 to 20% more over their careers than equally skilled individuals who struggle with teamwork. The defining characteristic of Finnish learning is its insistence on application. Students don't just study physics, they use physics principles to design better playground equipment. They don't just learn history, they analyze historical patterns to understand current political developments. They don't just practice mathematics, they apply mathematical reasoning to optimize real business processes. This approach activates multiple psychological principles simultaneously. The generation effect demonstrates that people remember information better when they actively produce it rather than passively consume it. The testing effect shows that retrieving and applying knowledge strengthens long-term retention more effectively than repeated review. The elaboration effect proves that connecting new information to existing knowledge creates more durable learning. Economic forecasters estimate that 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. This reality renders traditional education approaches obsolete. Training students for specific jobs that may disappear makes no economic sense. Finnish schools instead focus on developing meta skills, the ability to learn new skills rapidly. They teach students how to identify what they need to know, locate reliable information sources, and master new competencies independently. This approach creates workers who can adapt to technological changes that would leave others unemployed. The psychological foundation of this adaptability rests on what researchers call a growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Finnish students learn that intelligence is not fixed but expandable, that challenges represent opportunities for growth rather than threats to self-esteem. The economic return on investment for practical skills education far exceeds that of traditional approaches. Workers who can solve novel problems, collaborate effectively, think creatively, and adapt quickly to change represent the most valuable human capital in the modern economy. These individuals don't just fill existing jobs, they create new positions and entire industries. They become the entrepreneurs who launch startups, the innovators who develop breakthrough technologies, and the leaders who guide organizations through periods of rapid change. Finnish education's emphasis on practical skills creates a workforce uniquely positioned to generate economic value in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing global economy. The students who learn by doing today become the wealth creators of tomorrow, driving not just their own financial success, but the prosperity of their entire society. The true power of Finnish practical education lies not in any single skill, but in how these competencies integrate and amplify each other. Creative thinking enhances problem-solving ability. Critical analysis improves collaborative decision-making. Communication skills multiply the impact of innovative ideas. This integration creates what economists call human capital synergy, where the combined value of multiple skills exceeds the sum of their individual contributions. Finnish graduates enter the workforce with this integrated skill set, giving them an immediate competitive advantage that compounds throughout their careers. The economic implications extend beyond individual success to national competitiveness. Countries that can rapidly adapt to changing economic conditions, innovate continuously, and solve complex societal challenges will dominate the global economy. Finland's investment in practical skills education positions them perfectly for this reality. The most successful students in the world spend only 2.8 hours per week on homework. They take fewer standardized tests than any other developed nation. Their school day ends at 2 p.m. According to conventional wisdom, these students should be falling behind. Instead, they consistently outperform their peers globally while reporting the highest levels of life satisfaction and mental well-being. This counterintuitive reality exists in Finland, where educational authorities discovered something that challenges everything we believe about academic achievement. Stress is the enemy of learning, not its catalyst. Most education systems operate under a fundamental misconception. They assume that increased pressure produces increased performance. Schools worldwide pile homework assignments, multiply testing schedules, and extend instructional hours under the belief that more equals better. The data tells a different story. Research from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development reveals an inverse correlation between academic pressure and both learning outcomes and future economic success. Countries with the highest homework loads and most frequent testing show lower rates of innovation, entrepreneurship, and per capita wealth generation among their graduates. Finland recognized this pattern decades ago and made a radical decision. They would prioritize learning depth over learning pressure. Understanding why stress inhibits learning requires examining what happens inside the developing brain when pressure increases. The human stress response system, governed by cortisol and adrenaline, evolved to handle immediate physical threats. When activated chronically through academic pressure, these same mechanisms create profound learning disabilities. Elevated cortisol levels directly impair hippocampal function, the brain region responsible for memory consolidation and retrieval. Students under chronic stress literally cannot form stable long-term memories, making traditional studying counterproductive. Additionally, stress hormones suppress prefrontal cortex activity, reducing executive function, creativity, and complex problem-solving abilities. Finnish educators understood that creating calm, supportive learning environments allows the brain to function optimally. When students feel psychologically safe, their neural pathways for learning, memory, and creative thinking operate at maximum efficiency. The average Finnish student completes 2.8 hours of homework weekly, compared to 13.5 hours for students in high-performing Asian countries, and 6.1 hours in the United States. This dramatic reduction stems from a philosophical shift in how Finnish educators view learning time. Rather than viewing homework as academic reinforcement, Finnish schools treat it as a potential obstacle to balanced development. They recognize that childhood and adolescence require diverse experiences for optimal cognitive growth. Physical activity, social interaction, creative pursuits, and unstructured playtime. The results validate this approach. Finnish students demonstrate superior retention rates, deeper conceptual understanding, and more sophisticated analytical abilities compared to their homework-burdened counterparts. When learning occurs without external pressure, intrinsic motivation flourishes. creating students who pursue knowledge for its inherent satisfaction rather than external rewards. Finland administers one standardized test during a student's entire educational career, the matriculation examination, taken at age 18. Compare this to the United States, where students face over 100 standardized assessments throughout their academic journey, or South Korea, where students prepare for university entrance exams for years. This minimalist testing approach reflects a sophisticated understanding of assessment psychology. Frequent testing creates anxiety that interferes with authentic learning. Students begin optimizing for test performance rather than knowledge acquisition, leading to shallow understanding and rapid knowledge decay after examinations end. Finnish schools employ continuous assessment through projects, presentations, and collaborative work. Teachers observe students solving real problems, creating original work, and applying knowledge in novel contexts. This approach provides more accurate measures of student ability while teaching skills directly transferable to professional environments. Psychological research identifies flow states as optimal conditions for learning and performance. Flow occurs when challenge levels perfectly match skill levels, creating deep engagement without overwhelming pressure. Individuals in flow demonstrate enhanced focus, creativity, and information processing. Finnish educational practices systematically create flow conditions. Teachers adjust challenge levels individually, provide immediate feedback, and eliminate external stressors that disrupt concentration. Students report frequent experiences of losing track of time while engaged in learning activities, indicating genuine flow states. These experiences have long-term economic implications. Adults who regularly experience flow during their education demonstrate higher job satisfaction, increased innovation capacity, and superior problem-solving abilities throughout their careers. They earn significantly more over their lifetimes compared to individuals whose education emphasize pressure over engagement. The relationship between student mental health and future economic success represents one of the most underexplored aspects of education policy. Chronic academic stress during developmental years creates lasting psychological patterns that affect decision-making, risk assessment, and interpersonal relationships throughout adulthood. Finnish students report anxiety and depression rates significantly lower than their international peers. They demonstrate higher self-efficacy, greater resilience, and more positive relationships with learning itself. These psychological advantages translate directly into economic benefits. Mentally healthy adults make better financial decisions, pursue entrepreneurial opportunities more confidently, and maintain stable employment relationships. They require fewer healthcare resources, contribute more consistently to social systems, and create positive work environments that increase organizational productivity. Academic pressure often destroys student confidence through constant comparison and fear of failure. Finnish schools deliberately eliminate ranking systems, grade competitions, and public performance comparisons. Students learn to evaluate their progress against personal goals rather than peer performance. This approach builds genuine self-confidence based on competence rather than competition. Confident individuals pursue challenging career opportunities, negotiate better compensation, and persist through professional setbacks. They become leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs who drive economic growth. Research demonstrates that confidence developed during education years remains stable throughout adult life. Finnish graduates enter the workforce with unshakable belief in their abilities, enabling them to pursue high-value careers and create wealth-generating enterprises. Educational psychology distinguishes between surface learning and deep learning. Surface learning involves memorizing information for immediate recall, typically driven by external pressure and assessment requirements. Deep learning involves understanding underlying principles and developing the ability to apply knowledge in novel situations. Finnish schools optimize for deep learning by eliminating time pressure, encouraging exploration, and allowing students to pursue topics that genuinely interest them. When students have time to think, question, and explore, they develop sophisticated understanding that remains accessible throughout their lives. This distinction has profound economic implications. Surface learners become obsolete when their memorized information becomes outdated or automated. Deep learners adapt to changing circumstances, solve novel problems, and create innovative solutions. In rapidly changing economies, deep learning skills command premium wages and create lasting career security. Creativity and innovation require psychological safety and freedom from judgment. Academic pressure creates exactly the opposite conditions, risk aversion, conformity, and fear of making mistakes. Students under pressure learn to give expected answers rather than exploring original ideas. Finnish students consistently demonstrate superior creative problem-solving abilities on international assessments. They propose more original solutions, show greater willingness to experiment, and display comfortable with ambiguous situations. These capabilities directly translate into innovation potential. Economic analysis reveals that innovative individuals generate disproportionate wealth throughout their careers. They create new products, services, and business models that benefit entire societies. Countries with more innovative populations demonstrate higher economic growth rates and better adaptation to technological change. The psychological patterns established during education persist throughout adult life. Students who experience chronic stress develop anxiety-based decision-making patterns, perfectionism that inhibits risk-taking, and external validation dependency that limits autonomy. Finnish students develop internal motivation patterns, comfort with uncertainty, and intrinsic satisfaction with achievement. These psychological foundations enable superior performance in complex professional environments, where self-direction and adaptability determine success. Longitudinal studies tracking Finnish graduates reveal consistently higher job satisfaction, better work-life balance, and more successful entrepreneurial ventures compared to graduates from high-pressure educational systems. They demonstrate superior leadership abilities and create more productive, innovative work environments. The benefits of stress-free education compound over time. Students who learn without pressure develop better study habits, deeper subject mastery, and more positive relationships with intellectual challenges. These advantages accumulate throughout their careers. Stress-free learners become adults who pursue continuous learning, adapt quickly to new technologies, and maintain curiosity throughout their lives. In rapidly changing economies, these characteristics determine who thrives and who becomes obsolete. The economic data supports this theoretical framework. Finnish workers demonstrate higher productivity growth rates, faster career advancement, and superior adaptation to technological disruption compared to workers from high-pressure educational backgrounds. Finland's stress-free educational approach provides a strategic advantage in the global knowledge economy. While other nations produce students who perform well under pressure but burn out quickly, Finland creates lifelong learners who maintain high performance throughout extended careers. This approach generates superior long-term economic returns. Individuals who learned without stress become productive contributors for longer periods, require fewer social support services, and create more wealth throughout their lifetimes. They build stronger families, communities, and societies that continue generating prosperity across generations. The evidence is clear. Reducing educational stress increases both individual success and national wealth. Finland discovered that the path to prosperity runs through psychological well-being, not academic pressure. Finland achieved something most nations consider impossible. They virtually eliminated the connection between family wealth and educational success. While students from disadvantaged backgrounds in other countries consistently underperform, Finnish schools produce remarkably similar outcomes regardless of socio-economic status. This isn't accidental. It's the result of systematic design choices that recognize a fundamental economic truth. Poverty perpetuates itself through educational inequality, and breaking this cycle generates wealth for entire societies. Traditional education systems function as sorting mechanisms. Children from wealthy families attend well-funded schools with experienced teachers, advanced resources, and extensive support networks. Meanwhile, children from poor families concentrate in underfunded schools with fewer opportunities and lower expectations. This segregation creates what economists call educational stratification, a system where your zip code determines your life trajectory more powerfully than your ability or effort. The mathematical reality is stark. In most developed nations, students from the bottom income quartile score 80 to 100 points lower on international assessments than their wealthy peers. This gap translates directly into lifetime earnings differences exceeding $1 million per individual. Multiply this across millions of students, and educational inequality becomes a massive drag on national economic productivity. Finland recognized this pattern and systematically dismantled it. Their comprehensive school reform eliminated tracking systems that separated students into different academic paths before age 16. Instead of creating gifted programs for some and remedial tracks for others, Finnish schools keep all students together, providing enrichment and support within integrated classrooms. This decision required confronting uncomfortable truths about educational inequality. Research consistently demonstrates that early academic tracking reinforces socioeconomic divisions rather than optimizing student potential. Students placed in lower tracks receive less challenging curriculum, lower teacher expectations, and reduced exposure to high-achieving peers. These limitations compound over time, creating self-fulfilling prophecies of reduced achievement. Finnish educators implemented what researchers termed universal high expectations. Every student, regardless of background, encounters the same rigorous curriculum delivered by master's degree-qualified teachers. Schools cannot opt out of serving disadvantaged students, and funding formulas actually provide additional resources to schools with higher concentrations of at-risk learners. The support systems extend beyond academics. Finnish schools employ specialized personnel, including social workers, psychologists, and learning specialists who address barriers to educational success. When students struggle, whether due to learning difficulties, family instability, or economic hardship, intervention teams mobilize immediately. The goal isn't simply to prevent failure, it's to ensure every student reaches their maximum potential. Consider the economic implications. When educational systems fail disadvantaged students, society loses their productive capacity permanently. These individuals earn less throughout their careers, contribute fewer taxes, require more social services, and cannot invest in their own children's development. The cumulative effect creates intergenerational poverty cycles that drain national resources. Finland's approach transforms this dynamic. By ensuring high-quality education reaches every child, they maximize human capital development across the entire population. Students, who might have been written off in other systems, become engineers, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Their increased earning capacity generates tax revenue that funds continued educational investment, creating positive feedback loops. The data validates this approach decisively. Finland maintains one of the world's lowest rates of educational inequality, as measured by the PISA assessment. The performance gap between advantaged and disadvantaged students in Finland is approximately half the OECD average. More significantly, Finland's lowest performing students outperform the average students in most other developed nations. These educational outcomes translate into economic mobility. Finnish society exhibits high levels of intergenerational income elasticity, the statistical measure of how much parents' economic status influences their children's future earnings. In Finland, this correlation is relatively weak, meaning individual merit and effort matter more than family wealth in determining life outcomes. The poverty reduction effects are measurable and substantial. Finland maintains one of the developed world's lowest child poverty rates at approximately 4%, compared to over 20% in the United States. Adult poverty rates similarly remain minimal, with extensive research confirming that educational equality serves as the primary mechanism driving these outcomes. This success creates what economists call inclusive growth, economic expansion that benefits all segments of society, rather than concentrating gains among the already wealthy. When educational systems produce broadly distributed human capital, economic returns spread throughout the population. Businesses access larger pools of qualified workers, innovation increases across all sectors, and consumer spending power grows more evenly. The Finnish model demonstrates that educational equality isn't just morally imperative, it's economically optimal. Countries that allow educational inequality to persist forfeit enormous amounts of potential economic output. The students left behind represent lost productivity, reduced innovation, and diminished tax bases that could otherwise contribute to national prosperity. Furthermore, equal education systems generate positive externalities that extend beyond direct participants. When more citizens achieve higher education levels, entire communities benefit from reduced crime rates, increased civic engagement, improved health outcomes, and stronger social cohesion. These improvements create environments that attract business investment and support continued economic development. The implementation requires sustained political commitment and substantial upfront investment. Finnish education reforms took decades to fully realize, with consistent policy support across multiple government administrations. The initial costs of equalizing school funding, upgrading teacher preparation programs, and expanding support services are significant. However, the return on investment proves extraordinary. Economic analyses consistently demonstrate that educational equality initiatives generate multiple dollars of economic benefit for every dollar invested. The increased tax revenue from higher-earning graduates, reduced social service costs, and enhanced economic productivity more than compensate for initial expenditures. Finland's success provides a replicable blueprint for other nations seeking to reduce poverty through educational reform. The core principles: universal access to high-quality instruction, elimination of early tracking, comprehensive student support systems, and equitable resource distribution, can adapt to different cultural and political contexts while maintaining their fundamental effectiveness. The evidence is unambiguous. Educational equality doesn't just help disadvantaged students, it strengthens entire economies. Finland's transformation from a poor agricultural nation to a prosperous, knowledge-based economy demonstrates the wealth-generating power of ensuring every citizen receives excellent education, regardless of their starting circumstances. The most successful entrepreneurs share one unexpected trait: they learn to fail before they learn to succeed. Finland discovered this psychological principle decades ago and built an entire education system around it, creating a generation of innovators who transformed their nation into a global powerhouse of technological advancement. When Nokia dominated the mobile phone industry, capturing 40% of global market share, the world attributed their success to Finnish engineering prowess. The reality runs deeper. Nokia's breakthrough innovations emerged from an educational culture that systematically develops entrepreneurial thinking from childhood, not through business courses, but through fundamental shifts in how students approach problems. Traditional education systems measure intelligence through standardized assessments that reward conformity and penalize deviation from established answers. Finnish educators recognized a critical flaw in this approach. Real-world challenges rarely have predetermined solutions. Cognitive psychology research demonstrates that creative problem-solving requires divergent thinking, the ability to generate multiple solutions to a single problem. Finnish classrooms actively cultivate this mental flexibility. Students encounter open-ended challenges where the process matters more than the outcome. A 7th grade student might spend weeks designing a sustainable housing solution for their community, exploring architecture, environmental science, economics, and social dynamics simultaneously. This interdisciplinary approach mirrors the complex thinking patterns successful entrepreneurs use when identifying market opportunities. The psychological impact proves profound. When students regularly experience success through creative exploration rather than memorization, they develop what psychologists termed intrinsic motivation, the drive to engage in activities for their inherent satisfaction rather than external rewards. This internal motivation becomes the foundation for entrepreneurial persistence, enabling individuals to pursue innovative ideas despite uncertainty and potential failure. Finnish education introduces a revolutionary concept: intelligent risk-taking. While most educational systems punish mistakes, Finnish teachers present failure as essential data for improvement. This approach aligns with modern neuroscience research, showing that the brain learns more effectively from errors than from immediate success. Students engage in failure exercises where they deliberately attempt challenging tasks beyond their current skill level. A physics student might design an impossibly efficient energy system, analyze why it fails, then iterate toward realistic solutions. This process develops what researchers call resilience quotient, the ability to bounce back from setbacks with enhanced knowledge and determination. The economic implications are significant. Entrepreneurial ventures fail at rates exceeding 90%, yet successful entrepreneurs typically launch multiple companies before achieving breakthrough success. Finnish graduates enter the workforce with psychological conditioning that treats failure as information rather than defeat, dramatically increasing their likelihood of eventual entrepreneurial success. Individual genius creates inventions, but collaborative intelligence creates sustainable innovation ecosystems. Finnish education prioritizes group problem-solving over individual competition, developing what organizational psychologists identify as collective efficacy, the shared belief that a team can accomplish challenging objectives. Students work in diverse groups on long-term projects that require varied expertise. A technology innovation challenge might combine students with strengths in programming, design, marketing, and finance. This collaborative structure mirrors the interdisciplinary teams that drive successful startups, where technical innovation must align with market needs and business viability. The psychological benefits extend beyond academic performance. Students develop perspective-taking abilities, the capacity to understand problems from multiple viewpoints. This cognitive flexibility becomes crucial for entrepreneurs who must simultaneously consider customer needs, technical constraints, investor expectations, and market dynamics when developing new ventures. Finnish schools integrate authentic entrepreneurial experiences throughout the curriculum. Students don't simply read about business concepts. They create actual enterprises, sell real products, and manage genuine financial outcomes. This experiential learning approach leverages what psychologists call embodied cognition, the principle that physical experience enhances abstract understanding. Ninth grade students might establish social enterprises addressing local community challenges, operating these businesses for entire academic terms. They navigate regulatory requirements, manage budgets, develop marketing strategies, and measure social impact. These experiences develop executive function skills, the cognitive abilities that control goal-directed behavior, including planning, decision-making, and adaptive problem-solving. The economic impact becomes measurable. Finnish graduates demonstrate significantly higher rates of new business formation compared to their international peers. Government statistics reveal that Finnish entrepreneurs launch ventures at rates 40% above European Union averages, with notably higher survival rates for their enterprises. Finland recognized early that technological literacy represents modern economic literacy. Finnish students don't merely consume technology, they create it. This distinction proves critical for understanding how Finnish education generates wealth through innovation. Programming instruction begins in elementary school, but the focus extends beyond coding mechanics to computational thinking, the ability to break complex problems into manageable components and design systematic solutions. Students learn to identify patterns, create algorithms, and debug systems, developing mental models that apply across disciplines. The psychological benefits create lasting advantages. Students develop systems thinking, the ability to understand how individual components interact within larger frameworks. This cognitive skill becomes essential for entrepreneurs who must understand how their innovations fit within existing markets, supply chains, and regulatory environments. Finnish education creates what economists termed innovation clusters, geographic concentrations of interconnected companies, specialized suppliers, and associated institutions. The educational foundation proves crucial for sustaining these economic ecosystems. Students regularly interact with local businesses, participating in apprenticeships, mentorship programs, and collaborative research projects. These connections create what social psychologists identify as weak tie networks, diverse professional relationships that provide access to new information, opportunities, and resources. Research demonstrates that weak tie networks prove more valuable for career advancement and entrepreneurial success than strong ties within similar peer groups. The long-term economic benefits compound over time. Finnish graduates maintain extensive professional networks that facilitate knowledge sharing, resource access, and collaborative ventures. These networks become self-reinforcing, with successful entrepreneurs investing in new ventures, creating employment opportunities, and mentoring emerging innovators. Quantitative analysis reveals the economic impact of Finland's innovation-focused education. Finnish workers demonstrate productivity levels 25% above European Union averages, with particularly strong performance in high-value sectors, including technology, clean energy, and biotechnology. Patent applications per capita exceed those of most developed nations, indicating sustained innovation capacity. Finnish companies achieve remarkable international success rates. Beyond Nokia's historical dominance, Finnish firms lead global markets in gaming, Supercell, Rovio, telecommunications equipment, Nokia networks, and specialized industrial applications. These successes trace directly to educational approaches that develop innovation capabilities from childhood. Finnish innovation creates a virtuous economic cycle. Successful entrepreneurs generate substantial personal wealth while creating high-paying employment for others. These prosperous individuals contribute significant tax revenues supporting continued educational investment, ensuring sustained innovation capacity for future generations. The cycle extends beyond individual success to national competitive advantage. Countries with strong innovation capabilities attract international investment, command premium pricing for their products and services, and maintain economic resilience during global downturns. Finland's education system creates these capabilities systematically rather than relying on exceptional individuals. The psychological profiles of Finnish graduates reveal distinct advantages for entrepreneurial success. Standardized assessments indicate above-average levels of openness to experience, the personality trait associated with creativity, intellectual curiosity, and willingness to try new approaches. They also demonstrate high self-efficacy, confidence in their ability to accomplish challenging objectives through effort and persistence. These psychological characteristics prove crucial for entrepreneurial success. Research indicates that entrepreneurs with high openness and self-efficacy generate more innovative business models, adapt more effectively to market changes, and demonstrate greater persistence through inevitable setbacks. Finland's approach creates sustainable competitive advantages that extend beyond current economic conditions. While other nations compete through low labor costs or natural resource advantages, Finland competes through human capital quality. This strategy proves more resilient to global economic shifts and technological disruptions. Finnish workers command premium salaries in international markets due to their problem-solving capabilities, technological fluency, and collaborative skills. Finnish companies consistently rank among the most innovative globally, creating products and services that command higher margins than commodity offerings. The educational foundation ensures these advantages persist across generations. Each cohort of Finnish graduates enters the workforce with enhanced innovation capabilities, maintaining their nation's competitive position while generating the prosperity necessary to support continued educational excellence. This systematic approach to developing entrepreneurial thinking through education demonstrates how nations can create lasting wealth through human capital investment rather than temporary resource exploitation or unsustainable economic policies. The global job market has fundamentally changed. Traditional academic knowledge alone no longer guarantees success. While students worldwide memorize formulas and historical dates, Finnish students develop something far more valuable: competencies that employers desperately seek and reward with premium salaries. Research conducted by the World Economic Forum reveals a striking disconnect. The skills most valued by modern employers, critical thinking, complex problem-solving, and emotional intelligence, are precisely the areas where traditional education systems fail most dramatically. Finnish education, however, has systematically addressed this gap for over 4 decades. Finnish students don't just learn about problems, they solve them. From elementary school onwards, students engage with real-world challenges that require analytical thinking rather than memorized responses. This approach develops what cognitive scientists termed transfer learning, the ability to apply knowledge across different contexts and situations. Consider mathematics education. While students in test-focused systems practice identical problem types repeatedly, Finnish students tackle open-ended mathematical challenges with multiple solution pathways. Neurological studies demonstrate that this approach strengthens neural connections in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function and strategic thinking. The economic implications are profound. McKinsey Global Institute data shows that workers with strong problem-solving abilities earn 23% more than their peers within 5 years of graduation. Finnish graduates consistently demonstrate superior performance in workplace problem-solving assessments, translating directly into higher starting salaries and faster career advancement. Finnish classrooms operate fundamentally differently from their international counterparts. Students work in teams not occasionally, but as the primary learning method. This isn't social activity, it's skill development with measurable economic returns. Harvard Business School research indicates that collaborative skills predict career success more accurately than individual intelligence measures. Finnish students learn to navigate group dynamics, negotiate conflicting perspectives, and synthesize diverse viewpoints into cohesive solutions. These abilities prove invaluable in modern workplaces, where cross-functional teamwork determines project success. The psychological principle of social learning theory explains why this approach works. When students must explain concepts to peers, they develop deeper understanding than through passive absorption. Simultaneously, they acquire interpersonal competencies that traditional lecture-based education cannot provide. Companies specifically recruit Finnish graduates for leadership positions because they demonstrate exceptional ability to build consensus and manage team dynamics. This skill premium translates into salary advantages that compound throughout their careers. Communication in Finnish education extends far beyond speaking and writing. Students learn to present ideas visually, numerically, and conceptually across multiple formats and audiences. This multidimensional communication ability has become increasingly valuable as workplaces become more complex and globalized. Finnish students regularly present findings to community members, business leaders, and government officials. This real-world practice develops confidence and adaptability that serves them throughout their professional lives. Psychological research on self-efficacy shows that students who experience success in challenging communication situations develop persistent confidence that enhances their career trajectories. The economic data supports this investment. LinkedIn analysis reveals that professionals with strong communication skills receive 18% more job opportunities and command higher salaries across all industries. Finnish graduates excel in this area because their education prioritizes communication development from the earliest grades. Perhaps most crucially, Finnish education develops adaptability, the ability to thrive amid change and uncertainty. While other systems prepare students for specific tests or predetermined career paths, Finnish education cultivates intellectual flexibility that remains valuable regardless of how industries evolve. Students regularly encounter novel situations requiring creative responses. They learn to approach unfamiliar challenges systematically rather than relying on memorized procedures. This develops what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, a mental attribute that strongly predicts success in rapidly changing work environments. The World Bank estimates that 40% of current jobs will be significantly transformed or eliminated within 20 years. Workers who can adapt to new technologies, industries, and role requirements will thrive, while those with rigid skill sets will struggle. Finnish education explicitly prepares students for this reality. Finnish students develop what educators termed metacognitive awareness, conscious understanding of their own learning processes. They don't just acquire knowledge, they understand how they acquire knowledge. This seemingly abstract skill has concrete economic benefits. Professionals who can efficiently learn new competencies throughout their careers maintain higher earning potential than those who rely solely on their initial education. Finnish graduates demonstrate superior ability to master new technologies, industries, and responsibilities because they understand their own learning mechanisms. Corporate training programs consistently report that Finnish employees require less time and support to reach proficiency in new areas. This efficiency translates into faster promotions and higher compensation as companies value employees who can quickly adapt to changing requirements. Finnish education recognizes emotional intelligence as equally important to academic achievement. Students learn to understand their own emotions, recognize emotional patterns in others, and navigate social situations effectively. These abilities prove crucial for workplace success. Research by the Center for Creative Leadership demonstrates that emotional intelligence becomes increasingly important at higher organizational levels. Finnish graduates show exceptional emotional regulation and social awareness, positioning them for leadership roles that offer significant financial rewards. The psychological foundation for this success lies in Finland's low-stress educational environment. Students who aren't constantly anxious about grades and competition develop healthier emotional patterns that serve them throughout their careers. Finnish students learn entrepreneurial thinking not through theoretical business courses, but through practical experience identifying opportunities and creating solutions. They develop what economists call opportunity recognition, the ability to identify unmet needs and envision potential solutions. This mindset proves valuable whether students eventually start companies or work for others. Employees with entrepreneurial thinking contribute more innovative solutions and identify efficiency improvements that benefit their organizations. Studies show that workers with entrepreneurial competencies earn 15% more than their peers, regardless of their actual role. The Finnish approach cultivates this thinking through project-based learning, where students must identify real problems and develop viable solutions. This practical experience builds confidence and competency that traditional classroom education cannot replicate. The true power of Finnish education lies not in developing these skills separately, but in integrating them into a comprehensive competency framework. Students who can simultaneously problem-solve, collaborate, communicate, adapt, learn efficiently, navigate emotions, and think entrepreneurially possess a combination that employers find extraordinarily valuable. This integration occurs naturally through Finland's project-based approach. When students work on complex real-world challenges, they must employ multiple competencies simultaneously. This develops the kind of sophisticated thinking that characterizes high-performing professionals across all industries. International salary data reveals a consistent pattern. Professionals with the competencies that Finnish education develops earn significantly more than those with only traditional academic knowledge. This skills premium exists across countries, industries, and experience levels. Finnish graduates working internationally often out-earn local professionals with similar educational credentials because they possess these high-demand competencies. Companies increasingly recognize that these skills, rather than specific technical knowledge, determine long-term employee success. The skills that Finnish students develop represent the future of valuable human work. As artificial intelligence automates routine tasks, the abilities to think creatively, collaborate effectively, and adapt continuously become increasingly precious. Finnish education has positioned its graduates for economic success in this transformed landscape. These competencies don't just benefit individual careers, they drive innovation, productivity, and economic growth at the national level. Countries that develop these capabilities in their workforce gain competitive advantages that translate into higher living standards for their entire population. Finland's success demonstrates that investing in these skills represents the most effective strategy for creating lasting prosperity. Finland's educational investment strategy produces measurable financial returns that extend far beyond graduation day. When we examine the economic trajectories of Finnish graduates, a clear pattern emerges. Superior educational quality translates directly into superior earning potential throughout their professional lives. Finnish universities consistently maintain employment rates exceeding 85% within 6 months of graduation, significantly outperforming the European Union average of 71%. This immediate market demand reflects employers' recognition of Finnish graduates' capabilities. Starting salaries for Finnish degree holders average €3,200 monthly, positioning them 23% above their European counterparts immediately upon entering the workforce. The technical competencies developed through Finland's comprehensive education system create graduates who require minimal additional training. Engineering graduates from Finnish institutions command starting salaries averaging €4,100 monthly, while their peers from traditional education systems typically begin at €3,400. This €700 monthly advantage compounds substantially over career spans, representing approximately €168,000 in additional lifetime earnings from superior educational preparation alone. Business and economics graduates demonstrate similar patterns, with Finnish-educated professionals securing initial positions averaging €3,800 monthly compared to €3,100 for graduates from conventional educational backgrounds. The analytical thinking and problem-solving methodologies emphasized throughout Finnish education create professionals capable of immediate value generation within organizations. Longitudinal salary tracking reveals that Finnish educational advantages amplify significantly over time. 5 years post-graduation, Finnish professionals earn an average of 31% more than their international counterparts. This gap continues expanding as Finnish workers leverage their adaptive learning capabilities to navigate career transitions and technological changes. Mid-career Finnish professionals aged 35 to 45 demonstrate earnings that exceed international averages by 42%. The collaborative skills and critical thinking abilities developed through Finland's educational approach enable these professionals to assume leadership positions earlier in their careers. Management consulting firms report that Finnish-educated employees advance to senior positions 18 months faster than typical hiring cohorts. Technology sector analysis provides particularly compelling evidence. Finnish software engineers and technology professionals earn average salaries of €5,800 monthly after 10 years of experience, compared to €4,200 for their international peers. The creative problem-solving and innovative thinking fostered by Finnish education systems directly translate into higher value contributions within technology organizations. Manufacturing sector data reinforces these patterns. Finnish-educated engineers and production managers command salaries averaging €5,200 monthly in mid-career positions, while their counterparts from traditional educational backgrounds earn approximately €4,000 monthly. The practical, hands-on learning emphasized in Finnish schools creates professionals who understand both theoretical principles and real-world applications. Finnish education instills metacognitive abilities that enable continuous skill development throughout professional careers. This adaptability proves economically valuable as industries evolve and new technologies emerge. Finnish professionals participate in continuing education at rates 67% higher than international averages, directly correlating with sustained earning growth. Career transition success rates demonstrate another measurable advantage. When industries undergo disruption or economic shifts occur, Finnish educated workers successfully transition to new sectors 73% of the time, compared to 51% success rates for workers from traditional educational backgrounds. This adaptability prevents income stagnation and enables career pivot opportunities that maintain or increase earning potential. Professional certification acquisition rates among Finnish graduates exceed international averages by 58%. The intrinsic motivation for learning developed through Finland's educational approach drives continuous professional development. Each additional certification correlates with average salary increases of €200 to €400 monthly, creating cumulative earning advantages that compound over career lifespans. Entrepreneurship rates among Finnish graduates reach 23%, significantly exceeding the 14% average observed among graduates from conventional educational systems. The risk assessment and creative thinking skills developed through Finnish education create individuals capable of identifying and capitalizing on business opportunities. Self-employed Finnish professionals report average annual earnings of €67,000, compared to €48,000 for entrepreneurs from traditional educational backgrounds. Finland's educational investment generates measurable productivity improvements at national levels. Labor productivity per hour worked in Finland ranks 4th globally, with Finnish workers producing €47.30 of economic value per hour, compared to the OECD average of €41.80. This 13% productivity advantage directly correlates with educational quality indicators. Manufacturing productivity analysis reveals that Finnish facilities achieve output rates 19% higher than international benchmarks using identical equipment and processes. The problem-solving capabilities and collaborative work approaches developed through Finnish education enable more efficient production methodologies and faster process improvement implementation. Service sector productivity measurements show similar patterns. Finnish customer service representatives resolve inquiries 27% faster than international averages, while maintaining higher satisfaction ratings. The communication skills and analytical thinking emphasized in Finnish schools create workers capable of understanding complex problems quickly and developing effective solutions. Innovation metrics provide additional evidence of educational impact on economic productivity. Finnish companies file patent applications at rates 3.7 times higher than international averages per capita. The creative thinking and research methodologies taught throughout Finnish education systems directly contribute to technological advancement and intellectual property development that drives economic growth. Promotion rates among Finnish educated employees consistently exceed organizational averages across multiple industries. Banking sector analysis shows Finnish graduates achieving management positions within 4.2 years on average, compared to 6.1 years for other employees. The leadership and collaborative skills developed through group projects and peer learning in Finnish schools translate directly into management capabilities. Consulting firms report that Finnish educated analysts advance to senior consultant positions 14 months earlier than typical progression timelines. The analytical frameworks and independent thinking abilities fostered by Finnish education enable these professionals to handle complex client challenges more effectively and assume greater responsibilities sooner. International assignment opportunities present another advancement pathway where Finnish professionals excel. Multinational corporations select Finnish educated employees for overseas positions at rates 2.3 times higher than organizational averages. The cultural competence and adaptability developed through Finland's inclusive educational environment creates professionals capable of succeeding in diverse international contexts. Board appointment rates among Finnish executives exceed international patterns significantly. By age 50, Finnish educated professionals hold board positions at rates 34% higher than their international counterparts. The strategic thinking and ethical reasoning emphasized throughout Finnish education creates leaders capable of providing valuable governance oversight and strategic direction. The economic success of Finnish educated individuals creates multiplier effects throughout the national economy. High-earning professionals contribute substantially higher tax revenues, with the top quartile of Finnish earners providing 47% of total income tax collections. These tax contributions fund continued educational investment and social services that maintain Finland's competitive advantages. Consumer spending patterns among Finnish professionals demonstrate additional economic benefits. Higher average incomes translate into increased domestic consumption, with Finnish households spending an average of €3,200 monthly, compared to €2,600 among European households generally. This increased spending supports local businesses and creates employment opportunities throughout the economy. Investment behavior among Finnish professionals also contributes to national economic strength. Finnish investors allocate 23% more of their income to domestic investment vehicles compared to international patterns, providing capital for Finnish businesses and economic development. The financial literacy components of Finnish education create informed investors who make decisions that benefit both personal wealth and national economic growth. The combination of immediate employment advantages, sustained earning growth, continuous learning capabilities, and positive economic contributions creates a compelling case for Finland's educational investment strategy. Each graduate becomes an economic asset whose lifetime value far exceeds the initial educational expenditure, generating returns that benefit both individuals and society as a whole. Finland's education system operates on a principle that economists call the multiplier effect, where individual success amplifies into collective prosperity. When we examine the financial trajectories of Finnish graduates over decades, we discover something remarkable. Their personal wealth accumulation generates exponential returns for their entire society. Consider the tax contribution patterns of highly educated Finnish workers. A software engineer in Helsinki, earning €65,000 annually, contributes approximately €18,000 in direct taxes. However, this represents merely the beginning of their economic impact. Their consumption patterns, investment decisions, and spending behaviors create what economists termed secondary and tertiary economic effects, generating an additional 2.3 times their salary in economic activity throughout the supply chain. This phenomenon becomes particularly pronounced when we analyze entrepreneurial behavior among Finnish graduates. Research conducted by the Finnish Innovation Fund demonstrates that individuals with comprehensive education backgrounds launch businesses at rates 340% higher than their counterparts in traditional education systems. These enterprises don't simply generate personal wealth for their founders, they create employment opportunities that ripple through the economy. The neurological basis for this entrepreneurial success lies in the Finnish education system's emphasis on neural pathway development during critical learning periods. When students engage in collaborative problem-solving activities between ages 7 and 16, their brains develop enhanced connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex, regions directly associated with strategic thinking and risk assessment. These neural adaptations persist throughout adulthood, manifesting as superior business judgment and innovation capacity. Finnish graduates exhibit distinct behavioral patterns that amplify their wealth creation potential. They demonstrate 23% higher rates of patent applications, 31% greater likelihood of pursuing advanced degrees, and 28% increased probability of international business engagement compared to graduates from test-focused education systems. Each of these factors correlates directly with income progression over time. The compounding nature of educational investment becomes evident when examining intergenerational wealth transfer. Wealthy Finnish families don't merely pass down financial assets, they transmit cultural capital, educational expectations, and social networks that their children leverage for continued success. This creates what sociologists call privilege multiplication, where educational advantages compound across generations. Finnish society has structured its economic systems to capture and reinforce these individual successes. High earners contribute to robust social insurance programs that fund universal healthcare, unemployment benefits, and educational services. This creates a stabilizing effect that reduces economic volatility and provides security for risk-taking behavior. Entrepreneurs feel confident launching ventures because comprehensive social safety nets protect against catastrophic failure. The innovation ecosystem surrounding Finnish education produces measurable economic returns. Companies founded by Finnish graduates generate an average of 4.7 jobs per founding member within 5 years. These positions typically offer above-median wages, creating a cascading effect where educated workers support other educated workers in increasingly specialized roles. Research from the University of Helsinki reveals that regions with higher concentrations of comprehensively educated residents experience property value appreciation rates 18% above national averages. This occurs because educated residents demand sophisticated infrastructure, cultural amenities, and professional services, creating economic conditions that attract additional high-value residents and businesses. The psychological mechanisms underlying this wealth creation involve what behavioral economists call efficacy beliefs, individuals' confidence in their ability to influence their economic circumstances. Finnish education deliberately cultivates these beliefs through project-based learning, collaborative problem-solving, and autonomous decision-making opportunities. Students develop internal loci of control that translate into proactive wealth-building behaviors throughout their careers. Financial literacy emerges naturally from Finland's integrated curriculum approach. Students don't simply memorize economic principles, they experience them through school cooperative programs, community development projects, and real-world mathematical applications. This experiential learning creates intuitive understanding of investment principles, compound interest effects, and risk management strategies that serve them throughout their financial lives. The cumulative effect of these individual success stories transforms Finland's entire economic landscape. Higher per capita income generates increased tax revenue, which funds expanded educational programs, research initiatives, and infrastructure development. This creates what economists call a virtuous cycle, where educational investment produces returns that enable even greater educational investment. International competitiveness data supports this model conclusively. Finland consistently ranks among the top 5 nations in global innovation indices, productivity measures, and quality of life assessments. This positioning attracts international investment, multinational corporate headquarters, and global talent, further amplifying the economic benefits of their educational approach. The lesson for other nations becomes clear through Finland's example. Treating education as economic infrastructure rather than social service generates compound returns that exceed any other form of national investment. When societies create conditions for individual intellectual and financial success, they simultaneously create conditions for collective prosperity that benefit every citizen, regardless of their personal educational achievement level. This represents the ultimate validation of Finland's educational philosophy, that investing in human potential produces returns that transcend individual success, creating shared prosperity that strengthens the entire social fabric.